had the scan, Di told me how carefully and slowly the radiologist had carried out the scan. The following day, the Friday, the GP told Di that she had lymphoma cancer. Di returned home, asked if we could have a quiet talk, and she told me of her diagnosis. I cannot adequately explain the effect of her words. All I know is that we clung to each other and sobbed our hearts out for much of the night. The next day, tearfully, I telephoned Pastor Darren. He immediately informed Dr. Gunning, who very kindly immediately came round to see us. Now, in this church, we all know that Dr. Gunning is not a hugger. But behind that sometimes frightening exterior beats a heart of great compassion, together with a medical skill which can only be described as awe-inspiring. Dr. Gunning carefully explained to us the devastating shock that one experiences when the diagnosis of cancer is made, and immediately made arrangements for us to fly down to Johannesburg for hospitalization and, if required, chemotherapy. Within 24 hours, we were on a plane and straight into the oncology ward of a Joburg hospital. Biopsies were taken, and 6 months of chemotherapy got underway. It is often a point of discussion in Zimbabwe as to the level of medical care here in this country. Whilst the chemo room down in Johannesburg itself was a moving experience, where there is expert attention and where the patients reflect great warmth, support, and even humor, the level of care she otherwise received in Joburg was woeful. She became weaker and weaker, and oh, how we missed the support network back here. I made the decision to fly Di back here. Now, the miracles of God's infinite grace started to mount up. We were met at the airport by our kind Pastor Darren. He, seeing Di's fragile condition, notified Dr. Gunning, who had Di immediately admitted into a local hospital. In the hospital here, Di had caring nurses who constantly prayed for her, as well as concerned and skillful doctors and surgeons in attendance. We were supported and loved by Pastor Darren, by many members of this congregation, and by our beloved family. Our daughter, a doctor, flew out from the UK, and our eldest son flew out from South Africa. They were extremely concerned about Di's condition at that moment. Nearly all the medicines we had been prescribed in South Africa were binned, and a new regime prescribed by the redoubtable Dr. Gunning. Just to say, as he went through the medicines that we had brought from South Africa, he said, "Rubbish, rubbish, rubbish," and threw them away. Di started to recover and strengthen, and thereafter to return 7 times to South Africa for repeated doses of chemotherapy, ultimately resulting in her being declared in remission, which we regard as total healing. how do we even start to be able to express our gratitude to you, to our nuclear and church family, and above all, to God? On every return from Joburg, beautiful meals were awaiting us from the wonderful care group of the church. We received hundreds of messages of care and support. Our home overflowed with beautiful flowers, even Christmas trees. At Christmas time, and Christmas decorations. Sheila, thank you. Friends were ever available to help out with domestic matters, and our larder overflowed. Loving friends were always in attendance to support Di physically and in prayer. The overwhelming aura of prayers from all over the world, and especially from this body of believers, our office and our home staff and our precious family were tangible in their power and presence. God's light flooded into the darkness of illness. Di and I had to confront the specter of death parting us. How uplifted we were by so many of you who have gone through similar or worse travail, and whose faith and strength shines through like a ray of sunshine. We have been so inspired by you who have fought the same fight. Jeannie Miller, Args Watt, Karen Harrison, Roz Burbage, John Cooper, Sue McTavish, and so many others. The appropriate Bible passages which encouraged us and warmed our hearts are innumerable and acted as God's undergirding and enlightening of our spirits. Di's daily anthem, even when she was at her weakest and most vulnerable, was, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." So meaning and applicable is the passage in verse 11 of Psalm 65. You crown the year with a beautiful harvest. Even the hard pathways overflow with abundance. Can I just read it again? Because to me it was just such a nucleus of what we felt. You crown the year with a beautiful harvest. Even the hard pathways overflow with abundance. And oh, the blessings along the way. One being God's grace in enabling us always to stay with our son and daughter-in-law in Johannesburg. They sacrificed much to ensure our comfort, and they had been blessed with twin babies just 3 months before Di's diagnosis. To experience God's love and his gift of life through those tiny babies as we traveled through the dark tunnels of illness was a gift beyond expression. The blessing that Di and I could spend every waking minute together to elevate our relationship and love to a plane only dreamed about. The blessing of hearing the words, "You are in remission." The blessing of Di's strength returning, her hair growing, albeit a different color, and stamina increasing. The blessing of God's supernatural touch on our lives, and every moment to sense His assurance, to trust in His great love, even when we didn't understand. When we look back, we see that this journey has built a monument of memories, of unforgettable bonds of love, of light, of laughter, of blessings, of precious moments of love reflected through this amazingly supportive and loving BBC Church and the Zimbabwe community at large, and above all, of God's grace every step of the way. I thank you, Lord Jesus, for this amazing journey, for my beloved wife's courage and resilience, and for the precious extension of life together you have granted us. Thank you.